There you
Hey,
are. Miss Freya, how you
hello.
doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thanks for making the time. I really
Of
appreciate it.
course. No, of course. I'm so sorry that I was rushing around trying to get to you as quick as I can. So I sent you a quick text
Yeah,
before.
yeah, yeah. No problem. No problem.
Yeah,
How's
it's good to see your
how's
face.
good to see your face too? Yeah.
Here we
It's
are.
it's pretty easy, right? It's pretty easy just to get up and running with this.
I thought it would be far harder. That's why I
Yeah.
was a bit worried, to be honest.
We've
But
we've done this for it really has been since the pandemic started. And I remember the first time trying to do it with the person, but you can't do it on your phone when you're talking at the same time.
ah,
Yeah, like if you and I are
interesting.
talking and trying to, at least I couldn't, I don't think it works. So um, I was trying my hardest that first day. I'm like, what's going on? And I searched how to do it. And then, yeah, if you're off your phone and you just go on Instagram, it was so easy for us to do that, right? So,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. Technology.
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. We'll
Hmm.
um we'll wait just a minute or two and we'll let people come in. So once you and I go live, it just sends out information to our followers
Mhm.
that we are live.
Cool.
So if people follow us, come in, awesome. We'll say hello. If they have any questions, we'll let them ask.
Hmm.
If if people aren't there or it's quiet, we just keep on going. I'll put this on our Instagram live feed afterwards.
Hmm.
And if you want to, I can even send you a copy of it afterwards, just if you want it.
Cool.
Yeah,
That
and then
sounds good.
we shorten it after a bit. We'll edit it and then we'll make what's called like a super cut out of it.
Ah,
Yeah,
that is something I could never do. So I'm glad you're doing that on your end.
I don't do it, so I can't do it, but someone else can.
Nice, nice. Delegation it's impactful.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Can I ask you before we get started? So we've talked about you moving to Canada, but where did you move from in the UK?
Reading.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting just knowing a lot of places in the UK from their soccer
Hmm.
clubs.
Yes. Yeah, Reading, they're not up there.
But they used to at one time, weren't they? At one
Yeah,
time,
they
they
used to be
were.
Prem, and I think they got delegated 3 years. I forget when. I'm not a huge diehard fan. Obviously, they would be my team. However, my godmum, my godmum loves Arsenal.
Oh,
So
she does.
yeah,
Okay, okay. And I'm sure there's a lot of family kind of rivalries in regards to football over there. I'm sure.
gets intense for sure.
One more question for you, just curiosity. Is there a basketball team that's associated with many of those soccer clubs? Would there be a Reading
Um,
basketball club? Would there be an Arsenal basketball club? Or no?
so it's kind of separate, but we have the Reading Rockets, who I used to play for in
Okay,
England. Yeah, so that's a club, and they also
gotcha.
have academies. So I went to an academy which was linked to a college, which
Okay,
is ultimately like a CJEP.
gotcha.
So
Okay,
yeah,
nice.
so
Yeah.
yeah, there's clubs everywhere, which is really
Okay.
good.
Yeah, more curious questions on my part because I know some European countries and cities will have the basketball and also the football soccer club that's associated with the overall kind of big program. I wasn't sure.
Ah,
Okay. Yeah.
that's interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is true.
Like
Canada
Greece
does
does,
do that.
Spain does as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To my knowledge, we don't do that as much in England, but there are like sponsorships that definitely link up, and
Gotcha.
stadiums that may be used for multiple things, and courts that are used for multiple things. Because when I moved to Canada, it was it was nice because our basketball court had just basketball lines and volleyball lines.
Oh, right. Yeah.
In England, if you have any court, so yes, we have a club, but any court in England, it has basketball lines, volleyball lines, badminton lines, netball lines, lines you've never seen
Right.
before,
Right. Right. Just all these
going
different
both
lines.
ways. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
All right, so why don't we get started? So welcome
Sure.
everyone. People are coming in, and today I have Freya Schmidt as our guest, our Instagram live for Thursdays, and I'm delighted to have her. We've spoken off of Instagram in regards to her rich and also unique history in sport, right? So I can't wait
Yeah.
to get to that. I know a little bit from just chatting with you, but I think for the people who are with us, and then also those individuals who will watch this afterwards on our Headset Instagram page, will really have a treat in regards to just your path. And everyone's path is unique, but it's taking those parts away from that path that I truly believe young athletes and older athletes can take away and then use them as they pursue their athletic goals.
Mm-hmm.
So welcome.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. And then I was mentioning to you, people who are joining us, if you have questions for us, they'll pop up. And then as we're going through it, Freya, if you see it, jump on a question. If I see it, we'll just see it on our phone here, and then we'll jump on it. How's that sound?
Sounds wonderful to me.
Awesome. So we kind of started before we officially got started, but you moved from Reading in the UK to the University of Calgary in Canada, and you played basketball both places. You're basketball athletes. So tell all of us, and for those that don't really know yet, like tell us that path from playing in Reading in the UK to then transitioning to the University of Calgary Dinos program for basketball.
Yeah, so it's interesting because thinking back, it feels like a long time ago, but I remember it all really well. So that was in 2014. So I was fortunate enough to be playing national teams. So I was playing for England, and I later did GB things a couple of years later. But with national team, everyone on our roster, if they're dreaming big of basketball, goes to play D1 in the States.
Right.
So it's kind of, you're playing for your national team, then you play D1 in the States, and then you go and you play pro in Europe, and after that you play national team again. So I was obviously interested in that path as well, and I was talking to D1 schools in the States and getting recruited by them, etc. And then out of the blue, pretty much, our UFC head coach, so Damien Jennings, he sent me a big email, and he knew who I played. So the club I played for in England, Reading Rockets. Damien knew one of the coaches from Rockets. So he heard, he heard through the grapevine. He heard through the grapevine, through national teams, through his friend, that I was looking to play in the States. So he got in touch, and honestly, I'd never considered playing basketball in Canada before that.
Right.
And then I was like, Canada, and I had family in BC, and I preferred the academics in Canada to the ones I was talking to, and just in terms of, I'm very indecisive. So the fact that a degree in Canada, you can take lots of different things and then kind of choose and narrow down, that really suited me. So yeah, I signed on the 6th of February in 2014.
Very good, great memory.
Yeah.
It's such a monumental moment, right? So you remember the signing that and coming, knowing that you're going to play for the University of Calgary is a big moment.
Exactly.
And in regards to the time of year, right? And you can probably go back to September of 2015 and 16, 17 when you're playing basketball. September for university sports in North America is really big, right? Monumental in regards to that transition from summer to fall sports. But you're making a trip from Reading and coming to the University of Calgary. So can you kind of talk to our viewers in regards to what were some of the challenges of making the jump from one country to the other, but to university basketball as well?
So it was interesting because I felt like I'd already had such a student athlete experience. I was really lucky with the academy that I went to in England, because we already had to integrate our classes with our practice and our lifts. So I was already going to my college in England with a huge, like a Nike duffel bag, and it had my folders, it had my stuff for class, it had everything in there, my lunch, everything. So I was lucky in that I was used to integrating, because a lot of people start university, especially at this level, they start university, that's a huge jump. They're doing a new level at their sport, and one of their biggest challenges is okay, I just finished practice, now I have to put another hat on and go to class.
Yes.
You know, whereas I was lucky in that I was used to that from college, but that isn't to say I was used to the level. Obviously,
Gotcha.
It was a jump up. It was a jump up academically. It was a jump up physically and with the sports to a high level. Despite playing for national team, that's almost different again.
Okay.
But with varsity and with the, you know, Damien really would, especially years ago when I was playing, would really push this pace of play and more transition basketball, which means less set plays, less drawn up offenses, more just actions that we would, we had lots of plays obviously too.
Sure.
So that pace of play for sure. And then also just the kind of, I guess the family was, it's, so I'm not talking that as a challenge, but the family that comes with, you know, everyone's in the same boat. We're student athletes and we are together all the time. We're roughly the same age. And I had that family in England too, but it was so much more time that I had with this team. So it was a big jump for sure, but one that with this family support and, you know, with prior kind of experiences, I suppose I was lucky in that I already had that time management, that kind of resiliency. But yeah, it was a great transition. I was shy at first, but it was great.
And at various times, I'm just gonna kind of take what you're saying and then give it back to some of our users of headset or listeners, because they're wanting that edge, right? So what can I learn from someone else? And there's a lot of changes in making a jump to whatever that jump is. It could be from another country to, well, from one country to another, a different level, but there's changes. There's always changes when you make transitions. But it sounds like the social support part, essential.
Exactly.
Right? And that's one that I often tell athletes, if it's not there, you got to seek it out.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Because that resilience piece, you could have it within, but you need it from the outside to it. And it sounds like it was either there, but I'm pretty sure you probably reached out and grabbed that family that you talk about.
100%.
Which makes things a lot, it's still tough, right? It's still it's a challenging year, all those years. But for first year, I think that social component, just being able to be strategic with it as you enter it. And
100%.
And it sounds like also just, you got to lean on your experiences from before, right? So it is different, but it's not that different. You got to take those experiences from when you played before at your high level to bring it into this new environment.
100%. That's exactly it. And I was going to reiterate that importance of being social, because like I was saying, I was shy before, and I wouldn't say that I'm a shy person, but I was definitely, when I first moved to Canada, I was reserved with my team, and I didn't really let people in, especially in the first 2 weeks. I was like, I'm here, you know, it's my mission. I'm rehabbing my shoulder, class,
Yeah.
And it was definitely just kind of sussing people out. But then as soon as I opened up, as soon as I was reminding myself how much relationships mean to me, I was able to use that family in the team and even in the coaches. We've been so lucky with the coaches that I've had in my time and many other people's, that they're also really there for you. So yeah, just in terms of advice, I guess, is using, and not using and abusing, but just using the people around you, because they will also, it's a relationship, right? It's a two-way street. It's not a monologue that you're just putting onto someone. So yeah, it helps with resiliency, and also it just helps with coping too, for sure.
I love it. I like that two-way street piece. It is a relationship with all these people, including the coaches. Right? And I like what you said. Like, you're still assessing. You're not just kind of jumping into relationships. You're assessing it, but just reminding yourself that it's necessary. For me to be successful, I have to be able to reach out. And for some, right, I would say it's challenging. I would say for all, some people are a little bit more extroverted, and it might come a little bit more naturally. But for all, it takes that time to assess it and go, all right, that will be beneficial, and that will be reciprocal, right? Because I'm sure you gave it back to your teammates in regards to when you were asked.
I like to think so.
I'm pretty sure you probably, knowing you a little bit, I'm pretty sure that went back and forth along the years, especially during that first year, because it is different.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask you in regards to any mental skills that were helpful for you during that first year, on top of the ones that we mentioned that were helpful for you?
Can you still see me, Peter?
I can. It's a little bit dark now. Oh, it's getting a little bit better.
That was really weird. My phone just wanted to turn off for a second. That was so strange, and it's suggesting.
Yeah. You're still there.
Okay,
no,
cool.
You sound great. It's just the lighting a little bit, but you're good. You're good.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Sorry. So you were just saying about the coping mechanisms, did you say?
Yeah. Any other mental skills or coping mechanisms that you used during that first year?
Oh my gosh, I feel like this is before I had even taken any sports psychology classes. So this was, our coach, Damien, would instill a lot of the sports psych pieces with us, which was huge. That I feel like all of my coping mental skills, everything was tested in the first year, because I'd had my first ever shoulder surgery. I was rehabbing. I'd never been out for even a rolled ankle before. So
wow.
I was the girl who was always in, never needing a sub, just never injured, I can't knock on wood now. So it was huge. And that wasn't just kind of the resiliency, but it was also, I guess, the determination, the coping in a way that was healthy, despite my wish to just, like I was saying before, shut everyone out, head down. And, because obviously there were times of low mood and considering, and not the woe is me, but there are definitely dark times. But in terms of those coping mechanisms, using the social support again, and also, I guess that the determination piece, because if there was no way I was giving up, so it was just turning any part of my mind that wanted to not do my rehab that day, or even like I was saying, shut people out. It was just that reminder that I was really, really lucky to get a scholarship, that I'm in this role, that I can make the most of it. So yeah, it was huge for me to just not give up, use the people around me, and just staying focused too, I think. And that, honestly, I say that as if I was staying focused, but it was so difficult to remain, to keep my
remaining focused.
Exactly. Right? Thank you for the word. Yes,
no,
exactly.
No, you're right on. And just even hearing you say that, one, I had to acknowledge that I was feeling a certain way, but then what am I going to do with it, right? That whole reframing. And again, those athletes that I talk to, and even when I played it, to hear people talk about that, they never think that way. It's almost the opposite of that. It's human to think that way. Then what are you going to do with it, right? Mm-hmm. Acknowledge it, accept that I feel this way, but what am I going to do now?
That's exactly it.
To moving forward. And it really sounds like that determination piece really was a reframing, and then this motion moving forward.
That's exactly it.
Which is
and
big.
It's interesting you say that too, because I've, like we've talked about, done far more sports like now, and looking back and in hindsight, I don't even know if I was fully aware, because obviously you need that self-awareness to self-regulate, like you're saying. But I feel like one of my coping mechanisms in the early stages was to just bury everything, bottle things up, always just be chipper, and doctors and physicians, how are you doing? But like, how are you doing? And I'm like, oh, I'm great. Yeah. So it was definitely, I didn't even want to be aware. So, but nowadays, 6 years on from 2014, I feel far more aware, and I'm still working. Obviously, we all have to constantly work on our mental skills, but I'm definitely getting better at self-regulating too.
Right. And it's so awesome. And again, I'm thinking about all those student athletes who are now going back, or will be going back, like in Ontario here, that we're not playing that fall season, but still athletes are going to be training. They're going to be going back.
Yeah.
And I think this is important, and it comes with, as you're mentioning, experience, and we're always developing this. Mm-hmm. But to be able to acknowledge the awareness part as a mental skill, And it's work, right? Like you're saying, it's work. I'm working on it now. I'm going to work on it in the future. And it comes with experience. But if we can shorten the gap and say, maybe I can start listening to people like Freya who have worked on it in the past, that I can shorten the amount of time that I then use this skill. So I think that is, for those that are on with us, for people who are going to listen to it on headset, I think that is really important information, that you have to work at it, and it's okay. Reflection is a fantastic skill to be able to use.
Yeah, it's funny because I feel like it's this taboo word, you know, like, oh my gosh, what do you mean you want me to reflect on that? It's kind of this ew feelings, ew emotions, you know, it's as if people don't want to reflect and delve into themselves. And how can you expect to improve, you know, it's mental skills. It's, you wouldn't treat a ball handling skill in a way where you want to dismiss it. You know, your mental, it's why our performance goes like this, right? It's the peaks and the troughs. So if you want more peaks, you have to accept it's a skill and be able to be okay with working on it as a skill.
Oh, well said. It's a skill. Like, and again, you can throw in any sport in regards to the technical piece, and then if someone told you, don't work on that, just put it aside, take care of it in the years that are going to come, because they'll be waiting for you. Like, not the ball handling, not the actual position play or jump shooting or whatever part of the game it is. Just put it aside and deal with it later, right? But that's when you frame it like that, you go, okay, right? It makes total sense, but yet it's difficult.
Yeah,
right.
It is.
It truly is. It
really is, and it's good you say that, because it's, you know, we're not being facetious about something that is and it can be something that isn't fun for people. You know, ball handling, they want to do every day, but, you know, I think we also have to, I wouldn't respect myself in it because I didn't want to work on it, but respecting that it is, like you say, it's something difficult. It is hard to do.
Yeah. Oh, it's uncomfortable. Right. And even, I'm not going to get us off track here, but I haven't mentioned this to you. So my son's into basketball now.
Nice.
And again, he's right-handed, and it's left-handed, right? So it's like you still got to use your left hand, your non-dominant hand, and it's awkward. It's awkward to dribble. It's awkward to lay up. It's awkward to float. But you got to focus on it, because the dominant part is more, I guess, not easier, but it comes naturally to you.
Yes.
And some mental skills will come naturally, and others you have to work on it, but you can't put it aside, like you said.
No, exactly.
Yeah, I love it. Hey, can I ask, was the shoulder surgery piece, I know there was an injury along the way in your history.
Yes.
Was that reoccurring, or?
Yes.
Okay. That
very reoccurring.
And again, going back to those days, but can you kind of talk about how that affected your play along the way in basketball?
For sure, yeah. So I mentioned earlier that I signed to UFC Dinos on the 6th of February, and then 2014, and then exactly 1 month later is when I fully dislocated my shoulder for the first time. Okay. So at first I had to go through the conversations with Damien, you know, obviously very emotional, and saying, this happened, does that mean I'm not coming to you Calgary? Does that mean I'm not going to be a player? Because I've never been through the process. I didn't know the protocol, and he still wanted me, which was amazing. And he said, okay, you know, get the surgery in England, and then you'll come here and be a redshirt in your first year. Okay. So I had my surgery in late June. A month later, flew to Canada. And so my first whole year was a medical redshirt, and I was only able to, it was March of 2015 where I was feeling, you know, I was able to play a bit again. Okay. You know, just, you know, more, I was tentative. So March 2015 was when I was going back into defense and actually playing a bit more, not just working on my shot or my ball handling or defending just my own, you know, doing slides. So it was a tough year. Like I was saying before, I'd never been really badly injured before. So that year was a learning curve for sure. And then I rehabbed, played some preseason, dislocated again in preseason. Wow. Yeah, had Yeah, it was a lot. So then I had a Canadian surgeon look at it, and he went in MRIs and there's arthrograms, so they kind of put fluid and they look at it and whatever. Um, and he looked in and wanted to change things that my English surgeon had done and take things out. So I had another surgery, rehabbed. But my surgeon said, you know, you can't really do more damage, so would you like to play the season? I said, of course. So I ended up, in my second year, I played with a torn labrum, and this is when I would tape it sometimes, you know, a really big tape job, and it got to the point, it would dislocate so often that I would be mid-game and it would come out and I'd say sub, and I'd put it back in myself and just sit on the bench.
Wow.
So it was damaged. It was bad, but I definitely, I would stay on the court for anything. So, you know, it would dislocate. I'd go on the bench, and I wasn't a person who could just go straight back in. I had to, you know, take a little break. And then after my second surgery, I rehabbed really even more intensely. And with this new Canadian system with UFC sports med doctors and physios, I came back stronger than I've ever felt before. I felt incredible. And I came back to play again, and I was diving on the floor. I wasn't tentative. Felt great. Felt like I was getting my mojo back again in December when we were in Montana. And I was blocking people like I used to. You know, I'd like, if there was a fast break, sometimes I think they'd clear and I'd just chase them down and block them from behind. I loved doing that. You know, like I was getting my mojo back.
Sure.
So that was in December of 2017. December of 2016. And then in January of 2017, I was feeling good again. We were playing in our conference again in Canada West, and I was wearing a shoulder brace, which literally stops almost anything in terms of dislocations. And then I was face guarding a girl from the other team, and I kind of knew where the play was going, so I wasn't letting her get their post-catch entry. And then she kind of shoulder barged me through my armpit.
Okay.
And that fully dislocated it. And that apparently was a position where even the most healthy shoulder with that amount of force would at least sublux.
Okay.
So my shoulder just didn't have a chance, unfortunately.
Gotcha.
And that was a freak one, just in that no one was expecting it. It was like I was back to being Freya. Like, new girls didn't know my shoulder was, they knew it was a thing. But, you know, so that happened. And then I had my third surgery on the same shoulder in March of that year. And that was the same time that my coach was just like, we can't do this anymore. You know, this isn't smart.
Sure.
You know, and obviously I would have done 5 surgeries to stay on the court. Not that's healthy for me. I would love to go back to basketball one day. If I call my shoulder Sheila, just, you know, it personifies her.
So
and I can blame things on her.
Coach, right? So it was coach
Yes.
that kind of had to sit you down and say, take a look. Let's talk together about it. Gotcha.
Exactly. So he kind of was the one to say, can't do this anymore kind of thing. And so I had my third surgery. And then from that summer, I changed to a coaching role for the team and like a managerial role. And then...
So you stayed with the group? Yes,
exactly. So I stayed with the team. I wanted to stay connected with them, and basketball was still, you know, my love. And then a year later, I needed something. I needed some kind of structure athletically. I was struggling to just train on my own and just to stay fit. I felt like I really missed the purpose of basketball and, you know, games and everything. So I switched to track and field, and I'm still practicing with track and still helping with basketball. So that's very long-winded, but that's the whole thing.
No. But here's where, and we have people, and I'm just going to mention it because I mentioned it earlier. If you have any questions for Freya or I, just put it in the comments part of Instagram, and we'll get to them. So you let us know if you have any questions or things you want us to talk about. But this is where I want to kind of transition, because I know that you transitioned to track, and I personally appreciate people who have played more than one sport at a high level. So that's one that I take, and I really love talking to people who have done that. So, but I also like talking to people about the challenges of taking on the new sport. So you go from basketball to track and field.
Yeah.
And I believe you were a sprinter, correct? Or am I
I use that term loosely. I would try my best to be a sprinter.
Which track and field events were you focused on?
So after a while of messing around and training for everything, any sprint short stuff, I was mainly focusing on the 300 and the 400 meters.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're taking on a new sport. You want the structure and the kind of competition exercise piece. Again, I'm going to phrase this as, what doubts are coming in? There has to be doubts as you transition from one. I'm not going to say, what are the doubts? There are doubts. So what are the doubts of taking on this new challenge?
Oh, everything. I went from, especially before I moved to Canada, playing national team and everything, I went from feeling like a vet, like very proficient and good at my sport and natural and talented but worked hard with it, etc., to absolute rookie.
Yes.
But a rookie on a track team where how old was I? I was 21, 22 when I joined track, and there's 17, 18-year-olds just joining who are so much faster than me, who know everything track, who know how to set their blocks up, who, you know, so the transition was, I had to really, it was humbling, to say the least.
And I love this because, and we're gonna just kind of talk about it and use it, but there's two other athletes with the Instagram lives that I talked about. One was a hockey player that went to track and long jump.
Oh, yes, yes.
And there's another female athlete who was a world level speed skater that went into cycling.
Wow.
And if you listen to both of those, they say the exact same thing. You become a rookie and it humbles the hell out of you.
It's so funny.
Which is important, and I love that you're smiling at this, because this is what that's what it is.
Yeah.
Right. I haven't heard anyone not talk about it in that same way you're talking about. And that humility piece as you take on something new or during a transition, I think is crucial.
It is, because otherwise you would want to quit. Otherwise you would feel, you know, like you're in too deep, that you're doing something ridiculous. And I had those thoughts, you know, but it yourself, and it kind of happens. It's not even as if you're actively like, I really need to tone down this kind of, I'm a top level athlete in this, when you're doing a new sport, because it just happens. You're kind of, if you're putting yourself into it, those feelings are kind of forced, but very important.
But it's again, just kind of highlighting, you have to acknowledge them, accept them, but then move forward. Right? That's a huge part of our conversation. So here's where I'm going to love to hear from you. How do you move forward from being that humbled rookie, from being up here, to then going down a few notches, to bringing it back up those notches? So how did you take on that experience?
So that was a journey in itself, because at first I had the mindset of a high-level basketball player, that I can do this, I'm fast, I can put spikes on and, you know how to run. And my coach is just like, you run like a basketball player, stop running as if you're ready to catch a ball, you know, because I still learn something new every single practice. And that's no exaggeration, even if it's something tiny. And so going from, you know, becoming humbled by it all and then wanting to move forward, I would really check myself in terms of the goals I was setting, which sounds very kind of cliched and, you set goals, but it was everything for me to track my progress even. So I have this notepad that it was also got some kind of basketball stats. So it was my coaching pad, but also it felt like my commonplace for my sports, basically. So at the front of that, I had my times for my testing, my results for testing. We would do track testing every couple of years. I would have even down to how many chin-ups. The most chin-ups I could do in this area of the season was this. The most pull-ups I could do was this. So it was huge for me to just, and it's ironic with track, but just to stay in my lane, to not look over there at people who are doing this for 10 years, to just look at myself and be like, oh, I just knocked off. Like, people would be like, Freya, you PB all the time. And it was, I think it felt like a bigger deal for them because they've stayed like this for so long. Whereas I was like, well, I'm chasing that, you know, like that bit of technique there. Like, I know how to come out the blocks a bit better. So it was just huge for me to track progress in the weight room and on the track, for sure.
You become, and this is what people have told me too, you become, the people who do it well, they become the learner again. Right? Just like probably like when you're a young basketball player, and I see my son just like soaking it in, like, here's a dribble drive, and you kind of go, oh, like, this is the best thing ever. And then you become experienced, and you learn along the way. But when you start something new, to be able to take on those little nuances and then learn, like becoming a learner again, is really key. That's what I hear from people. Like, it's really easy to take something on.
It's so true. My coach and some athletes too, because he would say it out loud. I was always the one with the most questions. Every practice, and his name's Robbie. I'd be like, Robbie, and not kind of what's the workout today, down to, I remember with blocks especially, I'm like, okay, so this one felt a bit weird. Should I do this? You know, every detail I would. Yeah. I think I annoyed him at first, but I feel like we're pals now.
but I think with Robbie as a coach, and being able to understand that you're doing everything you can. It is catch up, right? You're not a track athlete to begin with in regards to your sport. So you're trying everything possible to catch up and be your best in that sport. And you're doing everything possible to be able to bring that into your training and competition.
I'm so glad you say it like that too, just in the being your best, because I used to get this kind of, not imposter syndrome, but especially at meets, and I feel like it would even happen now, with where I would place in a race, or you know, my times of things and comparing it to other people. I definitely sometimes would have this feeling of, oh, people are thinking, what's she doing here? You know, why is she working so hard at a sport she's not great at, etc. But I think that's when you just have to, again, check in with yourself and remember why you're doing it. You know, it's not for anyone else. It's not for anyone else's acceptance, you know. So that kind of, the feeling of not belonging was definitely there, and it still is to a point, but it's just that reminder. You just have to go back and be like, I am doing this for me. This is motivating me. This is keeping me fit. This is, you know, I still have athletic dreams and goals. So just being selfish with it, I guess, rather than worrying about other people's judgments, which is, again, easier said than done.
but that's something consistent in regards to high level athletes, is that they are open to the conversation, either their dialogue or with someone else, that they are doubting. Right? Because, and I often tell people, and I wouldn't have thought this when I played, right? And maybe wouldn't have let myself, I wouldn't have thought this even in grad school way back when in sports psych, that the very best doubt just as much or more. But what they do better than anyone else, they cope. 100%. Like that's the separator right there. Like, they cope better than anyone else, but they have to be open to how they're feeling in order to cope. Because if you deny it, and again, I'm a few years older than you, then we should just push it. Like, coaches say, just put it aside, right?
Yes.
And you never get to it. You never move. You never move. So to be able to say that I am doubting myself, but here's how I'm going to cope. And it could be because it's my purpose, right? It's because I appreciate this sport, because I want to do well and see what my potential is. And all those things help you little by little cope, right?
Definitely.
And I think that's what young athletes have to remember, that it's okay, but you have to have a plan in order to use it well.
Definitely. And a plan where, I don't know about where you are, and I don't know if this is just my view on it, I guess. But I feel like a lot of younger people these days, younger athletes these days, have more of a notion of perfectionism. And I don't know how true that is on your side, but I see younger people being far harder on themselves, or, you know, they're 11 years old, but they've already committed their life to this one sport, you know, and I just think as well, with my experience with my dream sorry, my phone's being weird. My dream to, you know, play pro again, play for my national team again, that being, I wouldn't say shattered, but it's definitely on hold, you know,
Right.
and
Right.
I was having to focus on other things. I think I've had to learn this more kind of holistic view of who I am, in my identity, in my life, in what I want to do and what I want that to feel like more than anything.
Sure.
Which it's been powerful, and I still have so much to learn, but I've definitely learned so much from changing sports, lots of surgeries, you know, so.
But that is, and it's been a major theme of ours, right? In regards to just, you have to be open to reflection, going a little bit like that introspection piece. Not, you know, like athletes, you go deeper, right? You want to go, you want to be able to just say, okay, this is who I am, this is how I'm feeling, and this is where I want to be able to use that information. So, and that knowledge is power. Your own knowledge is power in regards to what you set forward for yourself in regards to your goals.
Definitely.
And one part that resonated from what you said and what came to mind, and I often tell athletes this, and it's a nice opportunity to say so, most athletes have to be okay with being good. Right?
Yes.
And again, I'm not going to go too far into like private practice work, but I have athletes debrief how they perform, and very few people play great. And when I tell athletes, I go, if I could give you good all the time, would you take it? Right? I can say that to you. As an athlete, if I was to tell you you're going to be good every game, would you take it? Versus great and poor, great and poor.
I've never been asked that. And immediately my brain goes to track. And when my brain goes to track, I'm accepting good, because I know I've tried really hard to even be good. You know?
Yeah, right. Okay.
But I do know what you mean in terms of the greatness side, yes.
Yeah, right. And we strive for it, right? Let's not take that away. But we strive for this. That's back to your perfectionism piece. We have great performances, but that's what we often go, like that personal best, right? That you mentioned I have within, and I think we all have, but that bar and expectation sometimes, you often don't get there. Like you strive for it, you put yourself in position, but you often play good.
Yes.
Right? That's consistency, right?
Yes.
If I haven't had one athlete ever not accept consistency, ever. I asked this so often, and if they're truthful for me, I've not had one person ever decline that. If I can make you good, or if you can make yourself good,
you'd be a fool to say no.
but there is that greatness piece, right? But
absolutely.
So I love that you mentioned that, and that's for all of us as performers, that we strive for this level of excellence, and that's where we want to be able to strive for that and prepare for it. But we have to be okay, because we learn from good, right? As we do from poor, as we do from great too, right? So they're all opportunities to, I think, learn as we go along.
Absolutely.
Can I ask now, because you threw out the basketball piece, we have the track piece. What does your sporting life kind of look like now and in the near future, or is with everything going on, it's on hold?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm still training with track. I'm trying to figure that out into my schedule again now. Just, you know, we had a break for 2 weeks and whatnot. So for now, more track. I definitely will still work with the basketball team. And then in a couple of years, if my plan with visas, I forget that I'm English. If everything works out here,
right?
Not in my heart, but, you know, in terms of the logistics and the what you actually need to stay in the country. But if everything works out, I would love to go back to England in 2 or 3 years, for 2 years to do a master's there. And if I'm doing my master's in England, I would love to be a student athlete again in England. And if that means I can pick up netball again or stick with track, right now, I don't feel like basketball will be there. I would still love it, you know, but I'm having to be realistic in my body and everything. But I would love to play at a high, more mature varsity level again if I can.
Gotcha. And I'm going to kind of put it out to the group again that's listening. If you have questions for us, you let us know. I got a couple more, and then I'll kind of leave it up to people if they have them. But bring them on if you have them while you're listening. We are in a Headset Sports Instagram Live, right? And you know of Headset. How do you see a program like Headset being helpful for an athlete like yourself or people who compete at your level?
Well, I've also, with your lovely allowance, I've used it and it's been very helpful, especially in a time like this. And I feel like we say that a lot around the world, in a time like this, you know, but with the pandemic and everything, it was a tool that I could, especially when I had access a few months ago, it was a tool I could access when I was training on my own. And it just makes you settle down and really think about and be present and think, how am I doing in this? And, you know, there's the assessment tools and everything there, so that you're not just talking about trying to better this aspect of your mental skills. You're not just thinking about going and seeing a sports psychologist. It's you and a desktop, and it feels anonymous and private, and you are reflecting and you can delve in and actively work on things that you know you aren't good at in yourself. So it's a lot of integrity around it too, which I really like. And yeah, I would highly recommend it for sure.
Yeah, and that's something, as you mentioned, that we created this with that in mind, right? Keeping it private, confidential, but to work on those aspects that are necessary for you to improve, right? So being able to say, like, right now I need this. Tomorrow I might need something different, or next week or next month, but right now I need this. In the future I need this, and it allows you to go on that path. It's supportive, right? Your companion, call it, right?
Yeah.
We have to say it's your companion, and it's not a person, and it's not supposed to take away from talking to others, but it's just one additional tool to be able to add. Yeah.
Exactly.
So I appreciate you saying those things and using it. And when I hear about you using it, it brings a smile to my face, because when creating it, you never know, right? You never know who uses it and who can kind of give their knowledge onto others. And I think at the end of the day, this is a reason why you and I do this type of work as an athlete, coach, friend, teammate, right? That's kind of what at the very core that we really want to be able to give to others and onto ourselves.
For sure. It's a gift.
Yeah, it is. It really, and this has been a gift, right? And we've talked outside of here, so it's the first time that we're able to kind of see each other and talk about these aspects.
Yeah.
Are there any questions that you have for me at all before we go to our guests one last time? No pressure. If you don't, no pressure.
I have a quick question, just because I know that you're hockey oriented and you played a lot of hockey.
Yeah.
So, and I don't want this to sound cheesy, but I just also am roughly aware of your expertise in sports psychology. If you could talk to younger Peter and give him a piece of, mental skills, athletic advice, or something that, what would that be? Because I think that would help me and help everyone.
Yeah. Well, great question. And I'm going to link it back to Headset, because I actually created the platform with my colleague, Dr. Jason Galea, because I needed it.
Interesting.
So playing 100%. Oh, I'm very genuine with that. I created it for myself. It's just, and I won't even give my age, quite a few years ago, but I created it for myself. I needed it.
Amazing.
Needed it. I rode a lot of buses. We got to fly a few times. And I always have in the back of my mind, even today, a coach telling us all, it's time to get ready. And I had no clue what that, I know what it meant, but I had no clue what it meant. So I would get to the arena hours before, and I had no plan. Zero.
That is so interesting to hear.
I'm very talkative, so I would just talk and talk and talk, and I'd be the last one on the ice, but the first person there, and have no plan. And if I could do it over again, I would be very planful. And my adult self is much more like it's so helpful, and I go back and reflect and say, okay, that would be the big part of reaching potential. If I could be planful and be a little bit more deliberate, I think I would have been a little bit more consistent, for sure.
That is very interesting to hear, and thank you for being open with that.
Yeah, no, I would, and again, there are quite a few years between us, but if I would have a phone on a bus, I would have done that. So when
sure.
Get ready, done. Phone, tablet, here we go. I wouldn't be tapping a shoulder on the bus, looking at him, like I'd be focused on, but I'd have a system to help me plan to get ready.
I love that.
For sure. For sure. Yeah, no, thank you for the question.
Yeah.
And thank you for our time. Oh my goodness.
No,
you gave us the time today. So appreciative. I always love chatting with you.
Just a review.
Yeah. So last chance, anyone, before we go, we're going to be doing the wave soon. Not even a wave on Instagram. We're doing the physical wave to say goodbye.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll call it a day. I would love to talk in the future as your season progresses. Maybe have you come on again and just kind of tell us where you're at.
Sure.
Okay.
For sure.
That'd be great.
Thank you so much for having me. This was really great.
Pleasure chatting with you.
Yeah, you too.
We'll do it again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care.
You too.